So today, we're just going to go back to Metaphysical School 101. And my talk today is Spiritual Being 101, and that's going to kick off our return to school here. It'll be our theme all month long, and we're going back to the basics of just what is a spiritual being. Does anybody know?
Me. You.
Well, yeah, we all are. But how does that really present? You know, I mean, what's the who, what, where, when, how, and why of being that? Because there are days that I get up and I surely do not feel like a spiritual being. I don't know about you all, but there are days looking in the mirror when I just know there's got to be a mistake here. Wait, what happened there? And I must share with you that when I went to medical technology school, one of the first instructors that I had was a gentleman who was rather feisty, should we say. And he warned us in the very beginning. He said, you know, if any of y'all fall asleep out here while I'm giving my lectures, I'm going to throw a running racer at you. Because a lot of people partied, not that I was one of those, of course. And so I just want you to know that if I see any of you sleeping out here, I'm going to be whipping that eraser right across the room at you. So y'all better pay attention, because I made slides and everything. So the first thing I'm going to say, not yet. So we are all spiritual beings, and we've all been created out of that same spiritual essence, that stardust, that divine light that is in each and every one of us, all of creation. It's there. Now, why are we spiritual beings? Just because we are unique emanations of that one divine light. That's the beauty of that song that Treja and Dave shared with us, is that we are light. We know this, we know that we are light because the divine light that everything is made out of, everything is made out of, is in the photons of every molecular structure that there is. So photons are a light-emitting particle, and I'm not going to do my quantum physics talks today. It's just going to be that we are all part, well, I know everybody's disappointed about that. Everybody comes and says, aren't you going to do quantum physics one of these days? And I'm like, not yet, not yet, not yet. Well, there is divine light in everything. And as we look for that divine light in every being, in all of creation, we can identify it. So where are spiritual beings? Where are we supposed to be? Can you tell me that?
Right here.
Right here. That's right. We're right here where we are. Right where we are every minute of every day. And you know, it's been said that spiritual beings, it used to be said that humans were human beings having a human experience. Then they shifted it to we were human beings having a spiritual experience. Then Teilhard de Chardin said, no, and he was a wonderful Jesuit priest who was also a mystic and did many, many beautiful writings back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he said, no, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. What I would suggest and recommend to you is for you to consider that we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience right here, right now, right where we are every day. We don't get to say that we're not having a spiritual experience because we're living in a condition of human form experience. We've got three-dimensional things, so it all seems really, really real, and it is. It is. This is a hard thing here. Life can be challenging. Life can be very interesting. And so we get caught up in the illusion that we are having human experiences. Well, I would offer to you the idea that as you finish, as we get through this whole talk today, that by the time we get done with it all, you're going to figure out that you really are a spiritual being having a spiritual experience every minute of the day of your life, because you can see life and react to life and live life with all the qualities of a spiritual being through the eyes of the divine, through that essence that is within you, that is the true nature of your being, every one of us, that light. So, how many of you still live in the town where you grew up? That's cool. So, have you ever, for those of you who are not living in the town that you grew up in, the question would be, have you gone back to where you came from? Have you ever gone back to visit? And were you interested to see how it was when you went back, because it wasn't like when you were there before? Is that not true?
Yeah.
There's like, oh wait, this is interesting. So what happens is, as spiritual beings, we have that same experience. We've forgotten exactly where we came from. And when we return to that, it's a fascinating experience, because it's like, wow, I didn't know that I came from there. I do kind of. I kind of remembered that it was like that street, or it was like that experience. But this is really exciting. This is really different. So, Thomas Troward had a huge impact on Ernest Holmes. Judge Troward was born in India, but he was English, and he went back to England to go to school. And he did a lot of writing about the nature of the universe and creative expression in the individual and what we really are all made of. Way ahead of his time, brilliant work. Well, he suggested that there are 7 attributes of a spiritual being. And they are life and love and light and peace and power and beauty and joy. And we're going to take a little trip back to return to those qualities, those spiritual qualities that are the truth of our spiritual beingness all the time. They don't go away, we just sometimes forget that we have them there. So life. What does it do? If we're talking about life as a spiritual being quality, as a spiritual quality, what does life do? Life creates and it grows, right?
Springs up.
It springs up. Yeah. It is the nature of life to grow and to continue growing. I want to think about that for just a second. Have you thought about if you're growing or not? If you're continuing to grow, are you being stimulated in some way to continue your growth? Growth is not dependent on age. It's dependent on the life within us when we have that desire to live and to experience life. Next. Love. What does love do? If we're talking about the spiritual quality of love, it supports, it accepts, it embraces, it acknowledges, it blesses. If you're a spiritual being living that spiritual quality of love, how does that love feel to you as an expression of a spiritual quality? Next. Light. What does light do?
Shines.
It shines, right? And it lights the way for yourself and everyone else around you and for others as we shine along our way, along our path. So now we go to peace. Peace balances, it harmonizes, it seeks acceptance and mutual respect. It seeks consensus. It's interesting, isn't it? We don't have a lot of consensus in the world right now. And that's okay. We're all growing. So we're all life in action. Power. Power asserts. It chooses. It claims. And it exercises personal authority. What does that really mean, to exercise personal authority? It's a dominion within yourself, not power over others that we recognize as we see in the world today. Everyone challenging to exert power over each other in various ways. What about beauty? Beauty presents itself in full glory without pretense. Do you think any of the flowers of the field that are incredibly gorgeous blossom and go, oh wait, I don't look right, I can't be okay?
It's more
No,
like
I don't have the right colors, I can't bloom. I don't have the right petals, I can't come out today. No, can't do it. I don't think so. All creation is perfect. If we look at the animal kingdom and the babies and the older animals, you know, as they age and mature, and the fascinating look of each of them, the individuated creation and the creativity of a creator that could bring forth all of these fascinating creatures that are all different. I love little pansies and orchids, because to me orchids have little faces, and you look at them and they look like little fairies and elves and trolls, but that's a whole other talk. So beauty, I like beauty, we like beauty, and we're all very, very beautiful in our own right. Next. Joy. So what does joy do? Well, joy laughs and bubbles with exuberance, and it lives spontaneously. When was the last time you bubbled? Can you remember it? Can you remember it? Can you remember bubbling? Yeah, maybe when you were 3, 7. Maybe it was last week if you're really up on this stuff. If you really live it. So, considering those spiritual qualities, are there areas in your life, areas in you that are just calling out for revitalization and renewal? Areas that want to rise up and say, yes, this is what I am, this is the divine essence within me, and this is how I'm going to express it. Or like the vision that Kim talked about in her opening prayer. Are you just lost in the mist? Are you just trying to figure out if there is any light at the end of the tunnel? Are you listening to that voice of despair? Well, we're going to practice today. We're going to practice right now how we actually live and experience those qualities of life as a spiritual being. Go ahead, Ralph. Spiritual beings expressing as life are open. They're curious to learn. They want to know about new stuff all the time. And they're always growing. Does that apply to how you live in your life? Do you wake up? Well, we all woke up today, obviously. But do you have the opportunity to wake up, and even if you're feeling funky in the morning, you get on with the first cup of coffee or 2 or 6 or whatever. and then it's like you get this inspiration, and it may be caffeine in that moment, but maybe not. Something inside you says, wow, what would happen if I did this? May just be rearranging your closet, but that's a start. That's a start, right? So when we're living life, we're expressing activity and creativity and joy and all of these things. So, spiritual beings expressing as love, support, accept, and embrace. We commit, wait, back up, Ralph, I'm not ready yet. Ralph's wanting to create here. He's got that going. He's got the living thing going. Spiritual beings expressing as love commit to bless others by unconditionally giving of themselves
Did you pick that up?
for the fulfillment and enjoyment of others. When you love, do you actually love? Expressing, giving of yourself fully, completely? Or do you hold back just a little bit because maybe something will get broken or hurt? I think that's kind of a normal reaction. I think we've all had times when we've been hurt with love, the experience of what we thought was love. And so we don't give fully and completely out of fear. But you can. You can, because you are that divine essence of love. You are the spiritual quality of love that gives, not the person who wants to hold on and give through manipulation. Different way there. And of course, the folks that took the codependency class, they know how to love right. They've got it down. They've got it. So they can give from divine love and know that it's all healthy and wonderful. And they're blessings. They are a blessing to everyone that they interact with. Because they had the idea that they wanted to know more, they wanted to grow in a new way, and to open as spiritual beings. And that's what all of our classes are about here. That's what we do. We open and continue to express spiritual qualities and become the spiritual beings that we are. So living in the light, spiritual beings expressing as light shine. They're an inspiration to others because they are open to the all-inclusive, boundless manifestations of yet to be. That happens to be an Ernest Holmes statement, our founder. All-inclusive perception of boundless manifestations yet to be. Doesn't that kind of boggle your mind?
I love it.
And yet, as we choose to be those beacons of light for ourselves and others, that's exactly what we are. We are open. And we are an inspiration to others. The one thing about our teaching and our philosophy is that we live it. We live it more than we teach it, because our livingness of it, our livingness of these spiritual qualities of spiritual beingness, have us illuminated in a way that makes others ask questions about, wow, what's going on in your life that everything seems okay? Or how did you happen to work through that situation? Because you handled it differently than I've seen you handle it before. That's when we have personal growth and we're moving in a place of spiritual beingness, because we use the things that we've learned. Next. Spiritual beings expressing as peace create harmony by offering acceptance and mutual respect for the wholeness they see in others. The wholeness they see in others. When you look at someone, do you see only what you think isn't okay about them? Or do you see radiant beings that are filled with love, that are filled with that divine essence, that same divine light that you have? We recognize it in others. We see it in ourselves, we see it everywhere. And that's the first step. We see the divine spiritual beingness in ourselves and embrace it and accept it. And then we can see it in others. That's the magic. That's the magic that happens here. Spiritual beings expressing as power exercise personal authority by making life-affirming choices for themselves. Now, what exactly is a life-affirming choice?
Eat well. Eat healthy.
Eat healthy.
Or eat.
Or eat, pray.
Pray daily.
So if you were faced with a choice about having to do something one way or another, would you consider, is this life-affirming for me? Or is this really counterproductive to how I want to live my life as a spiritual being? Do I want to step up to a new level of choice-making that opens doors for me to continually express these qualities? Or do I want to stay in my same dark rut, the same places of despair? As we see the light shine, we can walk and step up to that. We see it in ourselves, we see it in others, and it becomes who and what we are and what everyone else is. And that's where our magnifying glass goes, because we're not magnifying that which is not. We are now magnifying that which is. Oh, and here we have the beauty. Yeah. Spiritual beings expressing as beauty present themselves in the natural beauty of their wholeness without pretense. We're back to the little flowers. We're back to the little animals. We're back to all of that. Noses and faces.
Yeah, the orchids on my windowsill were so cute.
I know.
And every day they greeted me, and I would go over and I'd stick my nose in their faces.
So Tricia was explaining that, for those of you who couldn't hear it back there, that it was these orchid analogy that got her because her orchids were blooming and they do have little faces. And every day they were so cute, she had to just put her nose right by their faces. How many of you have pets? How many of you have dogs, cats, germs, birds, chickens? Okay. And when they look at you and when you are with them, do you see their beauty? Do you see that innocence and that all-encompassing love that's just like, I'm here for you, Mom and Dad? Yeah. Is that not true? Now, they are beautiful. Might be the ugliest dog in town, but they are beautiful. They are beautiful. All creation is beautiful. And when we have our beauty glasses on, that's exactly what we see. Beauty in every physical aspect and spiritual expression. Go ahead, Rob. So, spiritual beings expressing as joy live spontaneously, experience the true joy of abundant and fulfilled living. Now, a lot of times we think about abundance being strictly monetary, whether we can pay the rent, whether we've got enough to buy gas for the car, whether we're going to be able to make whatever happen. But abundant living is about the richness of the spiritual qualities that illuminate our lives, being able to see all of these things, to feel them, to open ourselves to the reality of abundant living. That's the real secret of life. That's where the magic lies. To know that we are, without hesitation, spiritual beings having spiritual experiences every minute of every day. So when you're in a situation, I would offer you an opportunity here to consider this. When you're in a situation that is challenging, take a breath and step back for just a moment and say, what is the spiritual quality of my spiritual beingness that wants to express in this moment? Life, love, power, peace, beauty, joy, light. What is it? And find that, and in that moment, make a new choice. Make a new choice to be a spiritual being, creating a spiritual experience, even though we're here on this planet and doing all these things that are going on. When you see the news, you make a new choice. When you listen to your mother-in-law, you make a new choice. When you listen to the ex that called you up to find out about how you're doing now because they're miserable, you make a new choice. And when you're in a situation where you think that maybe somebody else's opinion is more important than yours, and you want to make a choice to make them happy, and it's really not what's true in you, and you can feel it and you know it, make the choice of being a spiritual being, having a spiritual experience, living spiritual qualities right then. And know that the truth of your being is that magnificence of the divine with which you came forth. Just like the stars were born. Poof. And there you were, magically. Might have been the Bigger Bang, but it still is that divine essence that is in you, that is there to nourish you and feed you and keep you going. It's your spiritual beingness, and it never, ever, ever leaves you. It's impossible. It is that divine light essence within you that is there all the time. So I just want to share with you a little quote by Dr. Christian Sorensen, who's he's a minister at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living, and he's filled with life and challenges, and he's a force to be reckoned with when you see him. If you have the opportunity to see him in person, do, because he is filled with life. I can tell you that. So I'd like to read this to you because I believe that it sums up the points of my talk today. Do not be afraid of the negativity in the world or in someone else. You do not want to become superstitious or afraid. Each time you are confronted with negativity, whether it is in the news, on TV, or from the mouth of a friend, it is a call to prayer. Rather than becoming worried, fearful, or angry, move into the centered space of the spiritual being that is you, that you know and feel every time you turn within to the truth of your being. Remember, through meditation or prayer, through contemplation, through quiet, pray life, pray love, pray light, pray peace, pray power, pray beauty, pray joy. And speak your word of truth that spirit is present and everyone is a spiritual being and everything will turn out for the good. You will be a benevolent presence to everyone, including yourself and to life itself. So don't waste another minute stifling your spiritual beingness. Don't stick it down in the closet. Don't shove it away in a basket. Be living the experience of a spiritual being with all of the spiritual qualities that are in every molecule of your DNA. They're there with you every minute. You are that God stuff that is magnificent. And so I just want to leave you with your homework, because it isn't a good school if you don't have homework of some sort. And believe you me, we get plenty of homework, whatever classes we're in here. So your homework is this. This is your affirmation, and your homework is to say this, a billion times a day, and write it on something too. And you can go ahead and join me now. I am a spiritual being having a spiritual experience every moment of every day. One more time. I am a spiritual being having a spiritual experience every moment of every day. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. So right here, right now, in this sacred holy place, this place where we come to be reminded of the spiritual beings, the spiritual qualities of spiritual beingness from which we were created, I just call to mind that infinite presence of love from which all creation emanated forth. I call to mind that illumination that lights the heart, that lights every molecule, that illumination of beauty and peace and harmony and joy. And I call to mind that power that exists in each of us to make new and life-affirming choices. And in this moment, I call forward the spiritual qualities, the spiritual truths. As I think of the people who are my family and friends in Florida and every place else where there's challenges with the weather, and I speak a word of the spiritual truth of knowing that that perfection of creation is everywhere existing on this planet, whether we can see it or not. This planet, our lives, our world is richly blessed. And in this moment, knowing that there is only one power, one presence, and that power can be used for good, I remind each of us of the full power and potential of each of us to be spiritual beings, having spiritual experiences every moment, making choices that are life-affirming, that bring up the entire illumination of this planet to a level of goodness that is only benevolent for all. And in the richness of that, I simply give great thanks. And it is with a heart full of gratitude that I release this word directly into the law of mind that always says yes. And I know it's already done, and we can anchor it and affirm it by saying together, and so it is.